A few days ago, I was listening to some music when all of a sudden an idea hit me. There are no album review shows at Gonzaga Prep. And, of course, there's no shows at all at Gonzaga Prep because the Bullpup Broadcasting website has not been updated in years. But anyways, I decided that I would take it upon myself to become G-Prep's album reviewer extraordinaire, even though absolutely no one has asked me to, and I'm sure that no one wants me to. But anyways, enough of my rambling. I'm Thibaut Drake, this is Zoe, and you're watching Album of the Week. Welcome to Album of the Week, the show where I listen to albums suggested by you and then rate and review them. This week's album, suggested by Nick Ogle, is The Strokes' debut studio album, Is This It?, released on July 30th, 2001. It features 11 tracks, 3 that were released as singles. Those singles are Hard to Explain, Last Night, and Someday. This album received much critical acclaim and was crucial to the reinvention of guitar music in the 2000s. So the whole album has this sort of upbeat feel to it, with some super funky bass lines and drum beats, and most of the guitar features a sort of chugga, I guess is the best way to describe it, kind of feel on most of the songs. There's one or two exceptions, but most of the songs are pretty similar. I think the album flowed really well because of this, and it didn't really feel like there were any songs that were kind of thrown in. Because of this though, there were a few points where it did seem like the instrumentals and vocals got a little repetitive, and I don't think it took away from it necessarily, but I think that it made the whole album experience, just listening it straight through, no skipping. I think that was a little more difficult because of the repetitive nature, but it definitely didn't take away from any of the songs. And I think that it's definitely worth it, even if it just requires a little bit of patience. So now what I'm going to do is review all the songs and what I thought about them. So the first track is called Is This It? And it's a pretty simple one. There's not too much going on, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I just want to highlight on this one, the intro is amazing. It kind of there's a little melody, and then it's the record kind of slowing effect, which is really cool. And then pretty much the only other thing of note in this one is the bass line, which I really love. It's kind of like ba 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 da da da, kind of going like that the whole time, and it's amazing. They really kind of push that forward. They let it breathe a lot, and it comes forward a lot, which I really, really love. It's amazing. It's a great bass line. The second track is The Modern Age, which I think is one of the best songs on the album. It has a really, really cool, just aggressive feel to most of it, except in the chorus. It gets kind of lighter and the distorted guitar takes a step back. And I want to highlight the vocals in this one too, because I think that they're the most unique on the album, and I don't know why, they just sound really amazing. I don't know what he did, but they just sound really different, and they're really unique. But the last thing I want to highlight about the Modern Age is the guitar solo. It is amazing. It's super aggressive, and he's just doing crazy bends, and the guy is, it sounds almost like bluegrass because he's picking so fast. It sounds like a banjo, which I think is really cool and really unique. You don't really hear that kind of guitar solo in songs of this genre. So the third track on this album is Soma, which I think is one of the weaker ones. It doesn't really have too much anything really special about it, except there's some cool dissonance in the guitar in a few parts, and I like the ending. It kind of goes there's a cool triple triple beat thing on the guitar and the drums, which is pretty cool, but there's not too much that's exciting about this one. The fourth track is Barely Legal, which is the only explicit one on the album, I believe, and this one has a super awesome pulse to it. It's just the drums and bass are just going ba 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 the whole time, combined with I think one of the guitars. And there's a few moments where the song kind of opens up, every instrument drops out except one of the guitars, the clean guitar, and then he just does a simple two-note picking pattern, which is really simple, but I think it's really effective. And then all the instruments kind of come crashing back in, the drums, the bass, the other guitar, the distorted guitar, and then the vocals come in as well, and I think that's right before the chorus. And it's great, it's an awesome effect, and I think it adds some awesome contrast to it. I think it adds some awesome contrast to it, and I really, really love this one. This is one of my favorite ones. I also really like the outro on this one. It gets super aggressive, his vocals get super loud, and it's almost like he's peaking the microphone levels. and then it just, boom, crashes silence. And I think that this is something the album does really well. They're really good at their endings, at just like ending it really quickly, and just, I don't know, it's great song. This is one of my favorite ones. So the fifth track is called Someday, and this one, again, like Soma, is not one of the, it's definitely not one of the more unique ones. It's kind of just generic for this album, at least. And I think there's some pretty good moments in this one. I really love the melody for the vocals. It's great. And it's really simple, but it's really, it's raw, and you can feel the emotion coming through it. And there's also one little moment where all the instruments stop except the bass, and the bass kind of has some really cool notes for a second, and then everything kind of comes back. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. There's not too much to talk about. So the next track, number 6, I believe, is Alone Together, which has a really unique intro. It kind of goes like ba ba da 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 da, and it's amazing. It kind of repeats throughout the song. It's like really dissonant, but it's really, it works so well with the bass line and the guitar that's doing the chugga chuggas, and I think it's really cool. And the vocals get super aggressive near the end, which I really liked. And again, not the most complicated one, but I think that it's really effective. It has a really nice guitar solo on the outro, and it kind of goes out with that, which is really nice. This next track, spoiler alert, it's my favorite on the album, is Last Night. It's number 7, and it is, I can't even describe how amazing it is for some reason. I don't know what makes it so great, but it's just amazing. It really reminds me of The Doors almost. It sounds like it's got the same kind of pattern as Touch Me, I believe, is kind of what it sounds like. I don't know if you know that song, but if you do, and if you don't, actually, go listen to it. It's a great song. But it's pretty simple at first. You know, it doesn't seem like the best one, but then all of a sudden it just like picks up with the guitar, kind of doing like these stings, like just like it's like bum 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 bum, and it's just amazing. And then the vocals are just great. It's super upbeat. It's got a really nice pulse to it. And then I think at one point it cuts out almost completely for like maybe like half a second, and then it picks back up, and it's such a good just like drop off, and then it really just helps to emphasize just, I guess, how like immersed and like you can get in this song. It's like it feels like a wall of sound almost hitting you, and it's awesome. And the guitar solo on this one is really good. It's short, but it's got some awesome sounds, and the guitar is super cool sounding. It's got some great effects. There's just some great bends. I don't know what just happened. My cat just had a stroke, but, well, not actually a stroke. She just kind of decided to jump around. But anyways, this is a great song. Amazing, my favorite one. And I hope you can give this one a listen. If you don't even want to listen to the rest of the album, just listen to this one, because it will probably make you want to listen to the rest of the album. Number 8 is called Hard to Explain, and the intro to this one is great. It starts off with this like super fast, almost electronic sounding drum beat with, I think, I don't know my drums very well. I think it's a hi-hat. I'm not entirely sure. But so it's super fast, and then the guitar comes in really fast as well, and that contrasts really well with the main melody from the singing and the guitar, actually. The guitar is really slow, and so are the vocals. And, well, not the second guitar is really slow. The first one's really fast. So my cat's decided to be hit with a case of the zoomies for some reason. Here she is. I feel like you guys deserve to see her because she's been kind of messing around the whole time. But anyways, yeah, so it's a super fast song, but it's really well contrasted with the slower vocals and second guitar part, which I think is really cool, and I really like this one. It ends, actually, before I talk about the ending, there's one part in the middle where the song, I'm not even joking, it just cuts out for like a second, and when I first listened to it, it surprised me, and I thought my Spotify had broken because it just went completely silent. And then it picked back up, and I was like, that's interesting. But after a few more listens, it actually is really cool, and it's, when you're expecting it, I think it's a little more fun. A great time to take a breath, you know, and just kind of, it almost amplifies the, like, wall of sound effect, kind of like in Last Night. The same thing happened, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it's great effect. And the outro, not the outro, sorry, there is no outro. The ending is super abrupt. He just kind of doesn't even trail off. He just like is singing, and then he just drops off at he sings explain is the last word he says. And it's like, explain. And I don't know, I'm not, yeah, that's pretty much, well, it's hard to explain, I guess. But yeah, that was Hard to Explain. It's a great song, definitely up there in the best ones on this album. The 9th track is called When It Started, and this one has some really cool moments in it. It It has a great guitar solo. It actually, I'll get to that in a second, but it is kind of, it's aggressive, but also not at the same time. There's like a lot of moments when the song is very aggressive, but then the vocals and the distorted, like the aggressive distorted guitar kind of leave, and it reveals the bass and the second guitar, which both have like a pretty cool melody in them. And that's pretty much it. The guitar solo in this one is really unique. It's actually the only guitar solo played through the clean setting on the amp, so it doesn't sound as aggressive, and it's pretty simple. There's not too much going on. So the next track, Trying Your Luck, which is number 10, I don't really know how to describe it because there's really not too much to talk about with this one. It's not a bad song, obviously, but it's just pretty simple. It's just some guitar, pretty distorted guitar, and then there's a solo in here actually, which is pretty nice. It's very simple, but it's effective, like most of the other solos on this album. But it's got some cool bends, and really, this one almost feels like the vocals they don't stand out at all. They're kind of melded with the music, and they just sound like another one of the instruments, which has actually happened quite a bit on this album, and I think that is one of the little setbacks, but I don't think it takes away from the song. It's still a great song. So the final track, Take It or Leave It, is super aggressive, it's a really good choice for the closer of this album, I think. This is the one that I actually paid the most attention to in the lyrics. I don't know, they felt like they stood out more. They were super aggressive, and so basically he's just saying, like, take it or leave it. He's confronting, like, a girl, like, yeah, if you're gonna take me how I am, and if you don't, well, too bad, like, you're lost. And it definitely fits the aggressive tone. There's an awesome guitar solo in here that's also super aggressive, lots of bends, and you can really feel the like energy behind the picking. And I think this one is definitely, it's a great choice to close it out. And it's just super aggressive, super fun. It's like, you really feel like this one gets you kind of pumped up. You feel like you can kind of do anything after listening to it. So that's all the track lists on the album. And so just some overviews from the actual album that I wrote down. I thought it flowed really well. No songs were really jammed in there. I kind of talked about that in the intro. I thought that the instrumentals were also really cool, which in a way was kind of detrimental to the vocals. I feel like they almost took a back seat, and the lyrics weren't, you had to really listen to pick them out. And I think to like the average listener, you wouldn't really think about it. You would just listen to the instruments because it's like a wall of noise. And yeah, so I don't know, that might just be me, but there were some really good guitar solos on this album. They were super short most of the time. They were really concise, but they were really effective. And I think that The Modern Age is actually the best guitar solo in this. It just stood out the most. And that Take It or Leave It, of course, is really close to, because it's really, really cool. And yeah. So I really liked the bass in this album. I didn't talk about it too much, but there were, along with the drums, there were some really, really cool, just like funky or just tight beats that were kind of following throughout it. And it was really just, you could really feel the energy going through those. And those were really the driving force behind the band, which is, since bass and drums are the backbones of most songs, thank God they got it right, because, if they didn't, that wouldn't be very good. But I think the monotone voice with distortion sounded cool, but it did kind of get repetitive a little bit, I think. Just mostly towards the end, but it's still definitely really cool. So the lyrics are pretty simple. They're well articulated. It's not a bad way, though. You can understand them if you kind of just look at them written down and listen to the songs. But they really just talk about urban life and relationships. And I think none of the songs are bad on this album. And I think that as like a whole song, Last Night was definitely my favorite. Hard to Explain is a close second. And I think that Last Night was just really unique, and that's why I think I like it. It stood out. But yeah, I really enjoyed this album. It was raw, and it felt professional and well mixed still, but you could just feel, it was almost like you're watching kind of someone playing in their garage, and you're just kind of sitting there, and, it didn't feel too like artificial. It felt really human. So I think that this album deserves, I would say, a 9.3 to a 9.4 out of 10. And I would definitely listen to this again. I highly recommend you do too. If you do have any albums that you would like me to review, feel free to email them to tbo.drake@gprep.com. That's going to be down on the bottom of the screen right here. Also, make sure to check out all the awesome content on bullpupbroadcasting.com, which hopefully has been updated since this video came out. And anyways, I will See you next week.